Well, welcome to Your City at Work. I'm Tom Loucks, Communications Director, and this is our extended version. We do have a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, but this time I have City Administrator Steve Barg with me, and this is the time that we can dig into some questions that we may not get into in like council preview or post-council news conference. So we'll do this once a month and see what it's all about, Steve.
Yeah, good to be with you, Tom. I look forward to these programs in the future and covering some items that the public would want to know about.
You bet. All right, well, let's deep dive right into the Strategic Plan 2022, which is going on now, all the way through 2024. There's 6 components that we all worked on, and this went through council, I believe, late last year?
It did. In the fall of 2021, they approved it, and we're working on it now, yes.
All right, so there's those components. Can you elaborate a little bit where we're at on that? I know you're going to be bringing it to the council probably yet this month, I'm thinking, if you get to it.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot on your plate here right now, but it will be done yet this year. And what's this about? You got economic development, quality of life, communications, HR, finance management, infrastructure, as well as in administration.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Good intro to that. When we approved got council approval for the 2022 to 2024 strategic plan, we made it clear, as we had in the previous 3-year plan, that we want to give semi-annual updates. In other words, we want to give them an update after the first 6 months, and then when we get to late fall, we want to give a little bit more deeper dive and see if they want to modify any components. They want to change the goals because conditions are changing. You know, the market's changing in some areas. So what we want to do on August 23rd is what I'm looking at, to give an update to the council of what we have accomplished so far in that plan. Now, you mentioned all the areas. It's a very diverse group of components when you're talking about economic development, human resources, infrastructure, all those things coming together. We've been hampered a little bit in the first half of the year from what we hope to accomplish by staffing issues. If you may recall, back on the 1st of January, we didn't have a finance director, didn't have an HR director, didn't have a development services director, didn't even have a permanent new police and fire chief positions, that we were still working off people who were interim. So we had some challenges to get off the dime. But we have done some things. So even though I report to the council that we haven't gotten as far as we hoped to in the first 6 months, some of the positives are East 17th Street over by the fairgrounds. That project is marching right along. We just got clearance from Moody's and from a ratings call that we've gotten the negative outlook removed from our bond rating, and that was one of the big goals for the finance side of the puzzle. So, and with the housing, we're still moving forward with Daniel's addition, and we're trying to close in on possibly a new subdivision in the southeast part of town. So some of the goals have seen activity and even completion. Many others have been kind of hampered by the limits of staff availability with some of these vacant positions.
All right. Well, we'll follow up with you after the council meeting on the 23rd. Be a good time to bring it up maybe at our post-council conference that you have. And that is actually coming up for our next meeting, isn't it? Already the middle of August?
Yep. It'll be a couple weeks from now, we'll be talking about that report.
Yep, so it comes quick. All right. Well, let's move on to another piece, and we'll almost segue right into it. You were just talking about housing or commercial land. What do we have available right now out there for anybody that maybe want to start a new business or build a home?
Well, let's start with housing. We've been criticized in the last few years, I think you and I have talked about it in this program before, for not having enough single-family lots available for development. And Daniel's provided 23. My understanding is 14 have been taken. There's still 9 remaining. So those are opportunities. And also the one we're working on in the southeast part of town that would provide 55 new single-family lots. That's not a for sure yet. There's certainly conversations going on between the city and the developer. It may or may not come to fruition. So we're trying to work on the housing side because we realize, Tom, the tie between available housing and commercial and industrial development. I mean, let's say you're running a company in Eau Claire or Madison or whatever, you're thinking about relocating here or moving one of your part of your operation here. You want to know that your employees can find a place to live. If they can't, it's not a very desirable community. So we're working really hard to try and get these off the ground and get some more housing starts. I think our plan for 2022 to 2024 called for opening another 100 lots for development. That would be a good stride toward improving the availability of vacant land for development for housing. On the commercial side, we don't own a lot that we're looking to market. We certainly have the Mill Creek Business Park. There's some land for commercial in one sense, not the way some people think about it, not retail or restaurants or something. But we work with people regularly on other opportunities. I think we might be talking about the mall coming up in this program. That's a place where we've tried to work with that developer in terms of trying to get some new retailers to come to town. We had the new TJ Maxx come into play here a couple months ago. There's things that have happened. As far as land available, there are commercial parcels out there that are zoned appropriately for any number of uses: office, retail, restaurant, various types of businesses. And if people want to contact us at City Hall, we'll tell you what the rules are, the zoning regulations, and anything else we can do to help you be able to possibly locate your business on that property.
All right. Now, if a certain area is zoned, say agriculture, but you want it changed, can that happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Tom. We have the Plan Commission looks at rezoning requests, all the time, where people have maybe they haven't bought it yet even. They're saying, look, I'm interested in buying this piece of land, but only if I can convert it to industrial or commercial or multifamily housing, whatever it is. And then they come to us and we talk to them about what it would take to come to the Plan Commission, ultimately the council, to get it rezoned. If you're not the current owner of the land, if you're looking at buying it, you'll need the sign-off of the current owner to apply for the rezoning. But what we do is we look at the uses around there. Let's say you wanted to buy a piece of land and you wanted to develop it for commercial. And we looked at the map and we said, Tom, everything around there is residential. There's no commercial in sight. I don't think staff can support changing this to commercial because it's really going to disrupt this neighborhood. Or we might say, oh, you know what, there is some close by commercial, and it would kind of attach to that, and really it's near the highway. It's probably very appropriate. Our staff might support that. So the best thing to do is talk to our staff and see whether or not that land could be supportable, at least, for a rezoning.
Now, is a public hearing would come about if the commission or committee, no, commission, excuse me,
yep.
Says yes?
Yep, and all the property owners who own land within 200 feet of that subject property would get notice. That would mean that a landowner nearby could come and say, hey, look, when I bought my house here, I was led to believe there was going to be no heavy traffic around me or anything like that. I have a concern about rezoning it to commercial. But the commission still ultimately weighs the evidence and the best use. They might agree with that resident, they might not. They'll certainly take that resident's input into consideration. But it's really all about what it provides for orderly development. The whole goal of zoning is to provide for orderly development. It's not to be a thorn in the side of property owners. And how can we make you mad at City Hall today? But it's based upon making sure that when it's done, it all fits together. I'm told that until not all that long ago, one of the largest cities in the country, Houston, didn't even have zoning until like the 1990s or the early 2000s. So you could have a manufacturing plant next to a single-family house. That's not good for anyone.
No. Well, I think it's good to go over that so it's not one person making that decision.
Correct.
So, all right.
Correct.
Well, yep. Great. Let's talk about another piece of development and see if you can talk about it. I know it's been in closed session. The mall. Where is that going? I believe some tenants have moved out as well and maybe even moved into another location, but the mall is going under a renovation process.
It is, and it's an exciting one. I think it's caught fire with a lot of our residents, the idea of getting some new retailers that are, I know the word is leaked out about who some of them are. It doesn't come from City Hall, but there's some buzz out there for who might be coming to the community. What they're trying to do, just for those who haven't heard it before, is kind of get away a little bit from the mall concept. There'll still be some of that mall there, but they want to have stores contiguous to each other, kind of like you see in Rib Mountain or Plover, where they're side by side. And again, I think you and I have talked about it before, Tom, but the mall concept has kind of fallen out of favor with people, especially younger people, who really aren't into that kind of retail layout. But what's going on right now, we're continuing to talk with the developer about how we might be able to assist him in getting this done. And some people might be hearing me and thinking, wait a minute, it's already happening. I mean, if some of these people are being relocated or working with the developer to make other arrangements, the developer has indicated that some things need to happen there anyway. The mall is not doing very well. If you haven't been there, it's not in a very used condition. There's a very small percentage of those units have been used. So he's going to do that anyway, but what he's hoping, if he can get the city to sign on to make this come to a conclusion, is that he can really start construction in the fall to make this development come to pass. And I think the city and the developer have had good conversations. I think we're probably pretty close to making this happen. I have no formal announcement yet, but I do hope to have that by the end of the month if all comes together.
All right. And that is one of our TIF districts, is that right?
It is. It's in TIF District 10. So if you do hear that the city provided some assistance, financial or otherwise, and you're saying, wait a minute, this is my tax dollar. What it is it's a TIF district means that we're going to recoup our investment from the additional taxes that are created by the value that is added to the property. So the city will be well protected if in fact this day comes.
Okay. So, but the city, if any of those things, I don't care if it's the mall or another TIF district, when you borrow the money, if that's how that works,
yeah.
Is that part of those, like the piece that we're going to go into, capital improvements, or is that something different? Because you don't have the money per se from taxes yet.
Correct.
You have to float it. Where does that come from?
Well, and that's typical for how we do TIF districts.
Okay.
We borrow the money, provide the assistance, and then recoup in the taxes over time. This looks like it's going to be, and I hope I can talk to you more about this in the next 30 days.
Sure.
A little bit different arrangement as to how the city would provide assistance,
okay,
rather than going out and borrowing a chunk of money. But you're right. I mean, ultimately, the city, when we need to, we borrow the money, and then we recoup when the taxes come in. If your property was valued right now at $50,000, and the city would get a part of those taxes, and the county and the school district and mid-state. But if your project took it from $50,000 to $200,000, that extra $150,000, the taxes paid on that, would all come to the city until we paid off our debt. So the school district and the county and the tech college kind of sit on hold. They get their taxes on that original 50, and they'll get the taxes on the whole thing once the city has recouped its investment.
Okay, so they're always going to have to pay taxes, no matter what. You're not going to get out of it.
No, okay. No. But the theory in TIF is that the project wouldn't have happened without the assistance.
Yep.
If the city has reason to believe that somebody's going to do something anyway, we really ought not be providing the assistance. But that we provide assistance with the idea that the taxes will cover that cost. And again, the taxpayers, as a result, are not out anything.
All right. Well, that helps understand a little bit more when our viewers, citizens ask questions or want to know or watch our meetings, talking about these terms. So not everybody knows it.
Yeah, and if I can add to that for a minute, Tom,
sure.
It's hard not to say more. I mean, I'm dying to say more. Mm-hmm. I have been for a while. I mean, there's a lot of interest in this community about seeing more retail in that area. But hopefully, if it comes together and the council and the developer have an agreement, that within the next 30 days that you and I can talk more specifically about how this all came together, what the terms are, and just the excitement of when this whole thing's going to take off.
All right, sounds good. Maybe our next program in September.
I see.
It's September, yes, August already. Wow.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about finance budgets. Your favorite time of the year, isn't it?
What a great topic.
Well, you have another month, right, before you really get it to your desk, because finance has those, maybe earlier, I don't know. But I know there's a piece in here that we've been asked to keep it not flat, but I believe a 2% increase. And maybe you can add about that, and then I just want to kind of talk about when all this is going to start taking place.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the process first if I can. The city department heads have been submitting their budgets to the finance department. And when they do, I get a copy of it as well, so I can look at it while they're going through it. The way we've been doing things in recent years, Tom, is we don't call it a base budget, but in my mind, I think of it as a base budget. Here's what we're going to do. All we're really doing at this level, where my hand is we're continuing, last year's services at this year's prices, or this year's services at next year's prices, actually, is what I should say. And that's where the 2% came in. We just put in an inflationary factor. Now, you and I both know that inflation right now is running a lot higher than 2%, which is going to make this challenging. But our goal is to keep general fund expenses at no more than 2% over last year as a starting point. We may have to increase that ultimately, but that's our starting point. And then we look at whatever else people ask for beyond that. So let's say Department Head A says, okay, this is what I need to do. All I'm doing is doing the same thing I did last year. The costs have gone up, electricity's gone up, water, whatever. But here are 3 things I'd really like to do. I'd like to add another half-time person. I'd like to spend more on in this area. And I will look at those ultimately and say, you know what? I think we can accommodate number 1. Number 2 and number 3, we just can't. The finances are too tough. And then we add it all in, we see what we have. Revenue is the other half of the picture. We don't really know what the revenues are at this point yet. We don't know what state aid is going to be. We don't know what transportation aid is going to be. We have a sense of where the taxes might be in terms of the added value. But it takes a while for this to come together. So here's kind of my map of it for you, okay? July, department division heads work on their budgets. August, we start seriously reviewing what's been submitted. That goes into early September. As September wears on, staff is putting together the proposed budget, me at the heart of it. It's actually called the city administrator's budget. By the second week roughly in October, I'm submitting it to the council, and then they'll have a series of 3, possibly 4 meetings on a weekly basis until we get to the finish line when it goes to public hearing at the end of November. So the process remains the same. What you're talking about with the 2% is really a target to give us a chance to really get that balanced budget earlier in the process.
Okay. I had a question here, and you kind of elaborated already a little bit on it.
Okay.
Taxes don't pay for everything in the city.
No, our general fund is about $23.5 million, and taxes covers 55% of that. So about $13 million, just under $13 million, I think it is. We collect in taxes for the general fund. The remaining 10, or a little over 10, is from state aid. That's a big one. We get maybe $7 million in total from the state for transportation and general aid. And then you start getting into fines and grants and all these other monies that we get. But it covers about 55% of the total general fund.
All right. Earlier in the council meeting during, I think, staff updates, you mentioned, and you mentioned it even in this program, just wanted to bring it up again about our bond. That had to do with capital improvement projects, right?
Well, it did. We're borrowing for capital improvement projects. We just did it the other night, $4.3 million, a little under that. But the bond rating is so important. About 3 years ago, we had our bond rating cut down from AA3 to A1. You know, in some ways, A1 sounds like, you know, A1, hey, A1 report. But it's lower than where we'd like to be. But they also then, the next year, Tom, assigned, they called it a negative outlook, which was their way of telling people who might bid on our bonds that, you know what, not only are we saying that they're an A1 now, we're saying that if they go anywhere from A1, it's more likely to be down than up. We're seeing some bad trends. That really is a negative to people who look at bidding on our bonds. Well, this year, after a couple of years, we convinced them we're taking strides, we're making progress. They took that negative outlook off. So when people right now, as we speak, well, actually we're past this now, but when they were looking at bidding on our bonds, they didn't see that phrase. It maybe gave them a better feel of the fact that, hey, the city of Marshfield is really improving its financial condition. And it was reflected in the bonds the other day. We had 4 bidders, and we had a good interest rate. That might have been harder to get with a negative outlook.
Okay. And that's always the process and how it works in municipalities. You don't go to the bank that we actually have, like Forward now. We went to Forward. No, you don't go there and get a loan, right?
Correct.
That's just how it works in a municipality.
Correct. We're going out in the market with the help from our financial advisor, and the bidders are from oftentimes all across the country. Okay.
Anybody could go. Even Forward could bid too, right? Is that how that works?
They could, but these are usually much bigger players.
Okay.
You'll see larger banks even from the East Coast involved.
Okay, because you're talking a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, $4 million plus.
Okay. Let's talk about EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Do we have one?
We do. It's over at the fire station, and it comes into play whenever we have a crisis type situation. We also have drills and tabletops there. But that is where, if we had the tornado, we had you name the thing that could happen, an ice storm, that's where people would gather, and you'd get the heads of the fire and police and lots of people. You and I would be there as well for our roles. And that's like the headquarters, the operations center, to where we would be getting all the information and communicating to folks out in the field what we need to do to deal with that crisis. And I think we have a good group. We meet monthly to talk about how to improve it. And like I said, we have either tabletop exercises or field drills from time to time as well.
Has it been activated in your time? I don't think it has. But
I don't think it has. I've been here for 12 years.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We don't want it.
But you have to keep being ready. When you hear about these school shootings and all these other things, you realize it could happen to you at any moment that suddenly you'd be in a special place trying to coordinate the response to an emergency.
Right. Is there one person in charge, or is it not really work that way?
Well, depending upon what it is, it would determine, is it more of a fire incident? Is it more of a law enforcement incident? Who would be the incident commander? But that's kind of determined at the moment. But most everybody knows their roles, and there's categories kind of like the military have for people to be off on the side talking about logistics, planning, all these different components to try and address an emergency. I was part of one once when I was in Ripon, We had a major flood, and I was in the emergency operations center, and we were going crazy for a while, dictating what intersections were going to be blocked because they were impassable, trying to find emergency shelter for people if needed. So when it's needed, it's a busy and crazy place.
All right. I just wanted the citizens to know that we're ready to go. We do training monthly, so that's a good news if something ever happens.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about, if you have anything to say on this, on the Marshfield Medical Center tax. That's been talked about for almost a year, maybe longer.
Yeah, still going through the litigation process. We actually had a tour, I think recently, where we got a chance to see some of the spaces over there that have been updated in recent years. But otherwise, it's really just talking about, we've been asking questions of them, they've been asking questions of us. Everybody's gathering information. No one's excited about the prospect of going to court. Certainly the idea of our largest employer and the city being in a courtroom is not desirable. But again, I think I've said this to you on other programs. There's no bad guys here. The clinic believes that they're entitled to this hospital exemption. They're just like any homeowner who thinks that they're entitled to a reduction of their assessed value. They're bringing it forward. We have not seen evidence to suggest that we would sign off on that. We don't believe that they necessarily do qualify. But it's going through the paces. It may take longer. It will take longer before resolution. But again, there's still cordiality between the city and the clinic. I talk regularly with their chief administrative officer about how we can work together. It's just that we have a difference of opinion on this topic. It's a big one. It's important because we're talking about $1,100,000, $1.1 million in tax revenue for just the city alone, $2.8 million annually for all the taxing jurisdictions combined. But we understand that this is their right to make the request, and we'll walk through the paces here.
Yeah, especially you said that this would go into the general fund, right?
Correct, yeah.
And the general fund, what did you say, 12.5 million?
23.5 million.
Excuse me.
So
that's a
you were
lot.
talking. So out of the total 23.5 million in general fund, this is about 4.5% of that revenue. Just this, these two parcels together. So it's obviously important to the city. And I'll say one more time: if we do go to court, I think I maybe mentioned this before. It doesn't mean that they'll win entirely or we'll win entirely. It could be a mix and match. They could say, well, part of the East Wing should be tax exempt. The rest of it shouldn't. Part of the clinic building should. It could be any resolution in between the two parties. So it's not necessarily an all or nothing.
And that could be worked out before court, if
possibly, yeah. I mean,
right
now everybody's really just assessing the strength of their case, whether or not they really have a case. But ultimately, something could come up. Yeah.
All right. Well, as soon as you can provide us public information, I'll keep asking.
That's fine, and I want to tell you what I can, but
I understand.
We'll keep working on it.
All right, I got a few more questions here. Railroad in Marshfield, it's important. It comes through here all the time. I did look back. I like to look back at the minutes and through the meetings, and there was a corridor of a railroad. Maybe it's not there anymore. It didn't go through, I think, and it was in closed session, but to be able to see it, it said it didn't go. It must have came out of closed session.
Yeah, I think they actually voted it down in open session. What that was there's a piece of property that was an old railroad bed, and there was a person who wanted to buy it and for a limited amount of money because it's not got a lot of value, and then they would take care of it. The question arose: what would the impact be on neighboring property owners? Were they interested in buying a piece of it themselves? Did they know about it or whatever? Those kind of things came up. At the end of the day, the council just voted at this point, let's not move in that direction. But rail is important in general. I think you're maybe heading in this direction in the conversation, and that is that a lot of commerce is still done by rail. You'd be surprised. When I was a lot younger, I thought by the time I got to be this age, rail would be history. Who's talking rail? But a lot of products are still moved in central Wisconsin and elsewhere by rail cars. So as we talk about new development, even the new area out there that we purchased 123 acres from the UW, you'll hear that rail will probably be something we talk about extending, or at least might talk about extending, because there are different companies that make great use of rail.
When you come into town, you see rail on the side. I don't know what that road is, but the newer area in the last 20 years.
Yep.
A lot of that rail looks like it's not used. Is it used? There's rail just kind of sitting there, or is it for switching or something?
Yeah, some of it may not be used, and it all depends on what company's occupying. Do they need it? There's been transition. We had a frac stand operation out there, and they went out of business. They moved on, and so now somebody else is using that property. Well, does that new owner need rail? So as uses change, sometimes the need goes up and down, but a lot of the rail in the community is still being used.
All right, sounds good. West 2nd Street corridor, anything that you can bring that's happening?
Well,
on
since
that?
we last talked, the CDA at the end of July approved. They gave the final approval. It's been a long process. Council and CDA both had to give formal approvals. We've been talking with our financial advisor Ellers about creating a TIF district to help fund the public improvements. We haven't done that yet, but we have a good understanding now of how it would happen. It wouldn't be all that complicated to have a TIF district. Mm-hmm. And we've also been talking with Vanderwall, the ones who helped us through the process of getting this plan put together, and they're willing to consider being part of the implementation phase. So they've given the city planner, Stephen Wiley, and me a proposed agreement. We haven't acted on it yet. We're kind of reading through it as to how they can be part of implementation. The big thing, Tom, is who's going to drive implementation. Is it the Economic Development Board? Is it the new city Development Services Director, when we can hopefully get one hired here soon? Is it the Plan Commission? Is it all these people together? What about Mackey? What about CDA? Getting that group together and getting that plan together for how to drive it forward is critical, because there has to be somebody leading at the helm to make sure that we're taking it on. But you're not going to see this all happen at one time. When we do start implementing, it's going to be probably in phases, in stages, as the plan is able to be taken on. It won't be, it's a big area we're talking about, west of Chestnut, and I think you'll see this happen in pieces. All
right, well, it's good to know more about what's going on with that EDB, and we also provide that now live.
Yeah.
And I think some good information comes out of that meeting.
So
stay tuned to that. That's usually on Thursdays, the first Thursday of the month, right?
First Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. You got it.
So, all right. A couple more here. Facades. I was, again, looking at that. Maybe that was discussed at the last EDB. Yeah, you put $70,000 in this year. And what is that for? Is it for downtown businesses or any business?
It's for downtown area businesses. In the downtown area, I believe, I haven't looked at it, but it's a little bigger maybe than you would think. But the premise of that is we want to incentivize people to improve their storefronts. I think it was extended a couple of years ago. It can be the back of the building now too, but to make improvements that add to the value of the building. And we're not just talking about purely cosmetic, but things that enhance the building. And it's a 50-50, up to a 50-50 matching grant. So if your project was $50,000, we could give you up to $25,000. We might give you more like 15 or something if we didn't feel 25 was warranted. But I got to tell you, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on something down here. That over the last years that we've been doing this, that there's been, I think, more than $3 million of private investment that's been brought to the table and spent to supplement our grants. This year we gave out 3 grants. It was really fast. It was by the end of June, I think, Tom, that $60,000 that they had in the budget for 2022 had already been accounted for. So $70,000 might go a lot faster than you think. But there's always storefronts downtown that need upgrading, and we want to be offering them dollars toward that project if they're willing to engage with us.
Okay, yeah. So it was $60,000 for 2022. They actually did their budget already.
They did.
That's what it was.
They did.
Okay.
And they approved. I suggested going back to 70 for next year because the money goes so fast, and they did buy in and they extended it to $70,000 for 2023.
Okay, so their budget had to be done just like department head budgets. So it's not final, or is it final?
No, it's not final. It's their proposed budget for themselves.
Okay.
The council could look at it and say that that's too much money, or we think you're spending it on the wrong things. But historically, the EDB's budgets have done well in the budget process.
All right. My last thing, I wanted to know a little bit about open session, closed session. You hear it all the time. Kind of was discussed last week or in the week before. Do we go into closed? Do we not? When can you? What does this mean?
A lot of people think we go into closed session probably a lot. And it may seem at times, we've had some things in the last 3 or 4 years that have brought us into repeat closed sessions, trying to buy a piece of property, trying to get a development agreement signed, some personnel issues we've been through. Here are the 4 main ways you can get into closed session. There are other ones, Tom, but these are the 4 main ways that come up. Are we in litigation or going in toward a legal entanglement that the city attorney needs to give us advice? Certainly we don't want the other side to see on TV that we're giving our advice to the council on what it is. Negotiating or bargaining for contracts with our police and fire union, with, in this case, the mall. trying to see what we might be able to do to help them. That's another one. Certain types of personnel issues can go into closed session. And then the other one is when there's things that are going to be disclosed that would be of a nature that could possibly negatively affect somebody. Now, you can't just go into, you can't go into closed session because someone might say, Steve Barg, I'm going to say at the meeting, Steve Barg's not a very nice person. And I'm going to say that from the podium. We're talking about things that if they were said publicly might have a serious impact on that person's, personal life, financially and otherwise. And it's a limited exclusion. It's a limited exclusion. The main ones really are the litigation, the negotiating, and the personnel. Anything else? Periodically, somebody on council will say to me, Tom, this is going to be kind of dicey to talk about this publicly. Can we go into closed session? Dicey is not one of the words used in state law. It's got to fit one of the categories, and it's based on the idea that you wouldn't want other people not in the meeting to hear what you're saying. If we're negotiating to buy a property, we don't want people to hear the council say, you know what, Steve, why don't you offer them $50,000? If we have to go to $75,000, you can do it later. And then the other side's going, hey, they're going to $75,000. I know that now because I'm seeing it on TV. Yeah. So there are certain things that you really need to be off on your own for.
Yeah, totally get that. But we'll know more on these special council meetings that was talked about. We don't know if they're going to go open or closed. I know that was a little bit of a discussion, I believe. So
it was on the EMS fund, and the city attorney will make that determination, as he always does, whether it qualifies for an exemption to open meeting law.
Okay, yep. And then there will be an agenda just like normal, right?
Yeah, there'll always be an agenda, even if they just go straight into closed session. Okay. And you know this, whenever you see closed session, either that night or at another time, you cannot act on something in closed session. If you're going to decide to buy the property, you're going to decide to whatever, you need to, at some point, be in open session in front of the world saying, we hereby make a motion to do X, whatever it is. You can talk in closed session, but you can't vote on contracts, you can't vote on buying property and those kind of things in closed session.
But you can't just say, yeah, we're going to do it without a vote?
Well, you can vote in closed session to direct the city administrator to go back to the property owner and talk to him more. But when you're going to buy the property, when you're going to sign the contract, when you're going to approve the collective bargaining agreement, you need to do that in open session.
In open session. Okay. All right. Well, that helped a lot about what that's about, and any committee, commission, board can do a closed session.
They can. If it fits the state law, they can do that.
All right. Yep. Well, we're out of time, Steve, and out of questions.
Okay, well, that's how we know we're out of time, right?
Yeah.
Got nothing more to talk about.
Nothing more. Well, I'm sure.
Well, we've always got more to talk about.
I could have Steve here all day, but
we probably could.
There's
a lot going on these days.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. So especially in your tenure here, a lot of different things going on, and keeps you on your toes.
Especially during your time here, the last 4 years or so have been very busy.
What did I do?
It's all because of Tom Loucks.
No, I hope not.
Just
I know you're kidding. So, well, thanks again, and I want to thank our viewers for watching our program with us. It means a lot to us too, as well as other workers of the city. So if you want to know more about your city at work, sign up for it. It's also a newsletter every 2 weeks, and you can get that through our city website at ci.marshfield.wi.us, and there's topics from about every department. I ask and get those out to you. But this program that we do once a month is more of an extended version, so gets a little bit more than we could write about, and get a chance to get that information out. So thanks again. I'm Tom Loucks, Director of Communications, City of Marshfield.